1. Apache. The Apache tribe, historically spread across the southwestern United States, became one of the deadliest and most feared Native American tribes due to their unmatched skills in guerrilla warfare. The Apache were not a single, monolithic tribe, but rather a group of culturally related tribes, including the Chiricahua, Mescalero, and Jicarilla. Their homes stretched from Arizona and New Mexico to parts of Texas and northern Mexico. The Apache survival in the arid, rugged terrain was a testament to their toughness, resilience, and ability to adapt to harsh environments. What set the Apache apart from many other tribes was their tactical mastery. Apache warriors were known for their swift and mobile attacks, often using hit-and-run tactics that confused and demoralized their enemies. They would raid settlements, taking supplies, horses, and occasionally captives, then disappear into the vast desert or mountains before any organized resistance could be mounted. Their intimate knowledge of the land gave them a significant advantage over those who attempted to pursue them, whether it be Spanish conquistadors, Mexican soldiers, or later, American settlers and military forces. The Apache were led by several iconic figures, the most famous being Geronimo. Born in 1829, Geronimo became a prominent leader during the Apache Wars, a series of conflicts that spanned decades. He led his people in numerous raids and skirmishes against Mexican and American forces, becoming a symbol of resistance. His relentless campaigns and daring escapes made him a legend, though he was eventually captured in 1886, marking the end of major Apache resistance. Another notable figure was Cochise, a chief of the Chiricahua Apache. Known for his strategic brilliance, Cochise waged a fierce campaign against American forces after the U.S. encroached on Apache lands. For over a decade, Cochise and his warriors were a thorn in the side of the U.S. military, winning several skirmishes and becoming known for their fearsome ability to defend their homeland. Despite their fearsome reputation as warriors, the Apache were also skilled survivalists. They thrived in environments that were inhospitable to most others, utilizing the land's natural resources to sustain themselves. Their ability to live off the land, coupled with their tactical prowess, allowed them to resist colonization far longer than many other tribes. By the end of the 19th century, most Apache bands had been forcibly relocated to reservations, but their legacy as fierce warriors and defenders of their land endured. The Apache were one of the last Native American groups to be subdued by the U.S. government, a testament to their tenacity and combat prowess. Their name still evokes images of fierce independence, resilience, and the indomitable spirit of Native American resistance. 2. Sioux. The Sioux, particularly the Lakota, were among the most formidable and feared Native American tribes in the 19th century. They were originally a semi-nomadic tribe that roamed the northern plains, including modern-day North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Montana. Their society was organized into three major divisions: the Lakota, Western, Dakota, Eastern, and Nakota, Middle. Of these, the Lakota were the most well-known for their warrior culture and resistance to U.S. encroachment on their lands. The Sioux's reputation as deadly warriors was solidified during the Plains Wars, a series of conflicts with the United States as settlers pushed westward. The tribe had a close relationship with their environment, relying heavily on buffalo for sustenance, clothing, and tools. The introduction of horses by Europeans transformed Sioux culture, enhancing their mobility and making them even more effective in battle. Sioux warriors were renowned for their bravery, horsemanship, and ability to outmaneuver their enemies. One of the most famous conflicts involving the Sioux was the Great Sioux War of 1876 to 1877, which culminated in the legendary Battle of Little Bighorn. This battle, often referred to as Custer's Last Stand, saw a coalition of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors, led by Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, decisively defeat the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the U.S. Army. The battle became one of the greatest Native American victories, with Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer and over 260 of his men killed in the engagement. Sitting Bull, the spiritual leader of the Sioux, played a critical role in rallying the tribes against U.S. forces. His vision of victory during a sun dance ceremony in 1876 inspired his people to stand united. Crazy Horse, a legendary war chief, led the charge at Little Bighorn, demonstrating tactical genius in outflanking and surrounding Custer's forces. Their victory sent shockwaves across the United States and temporarily halted U.S. expansion into Sioux territory. However, this victory was short-lived. The U.S. government intensified its military efforts against the Sioux, and over the next several years, the tribe was gradually forced onto reservations. The killing of Sitting Bull in 1890, followed by the Wounded Knee Massacre, marked the tragic end of Sioux resistance. At Wounded Knee, U.S. soldiers killed nearly 300 Sioux, including women and children, in what is now regarded as one of the most brutal events in Native American history. Despite their eventual defeat, the Sioux remain an enduring symbol of Native American resistance and resilience. Their warrior ethos, rooted in bravery and the defense of their people and land, continues to inspire pride among their descendants. Their struggle against overwhelming odds, epitomized by the victories at Little Bighorn and other engagements, ensured that their place in history as one of the deadliest and most iconic tribes is secured. The Sioux's legacy as fierce defenders of their homeland has been immortalized in countless books, films, and historical accounts. 3. Comanche. The Comanche were one of the most feared tribes in the American Southwest during the 18th and 19th centuries. They were part of the larger Shoshone group and migrated from Wyoming to Texas, where they became a dominant force on the southern plains. Known for their exceptional horsemanship, the Comanche were often referred to as Lords of the Plains. Their mastery of horses, which they acquired from the Spanish, allowed them to control vast territories and dominate other tribes, settlers, and even Spanish and Mexican forces. Comanche warriors were known for their lightning-fast raids, which terrorized their enemies. They attacked settlements, stole livestock, and took captives, often using these raids as a means of asserting their dominance. Their ability to travel great distances quickly, strike with overwhelming force, and then disappear into the plains made them extremely difficult to defeat. Their attacks on Spanish and Mexican settlements became so frequent that they effectively controlled much of what is now Texas and northern Mexico. The Comanche were also skilled traders, exchanging horses, captives, and other goods with European settlers and neighboring tribes. Their economy was largely based on the raiding and trading of horses, which became a symbol of wealth and status within their society. The Comanche were one of the first tribes to fully integrate horses into their way of life, and they used this advantage to become the dominant power in the region. One of the most famous Comanche leaders was Quanah Parker, the last chief of the Comanche. Born to a Comanche father and a white mother who had been captured by the tribe, Quanah Parker became a respected leader during the final years of Comanche resistance. Under his leadership, the Comanche fought to defend their lands against the encroachment of American settlers and the U.S. Army. However, like many other tribes, the Comanche were eventually forced onto reservations after years of warfare. Despite their eventual defeat, the Comanche's legacy as one of the deadliest tribes in Native American history remains. Their ability to adapt to new technologies, such as horses, and use them to dominate vast territories made them a force to be reckoned with for over a century. Their mastery of the plains, their fearsome raids, and their resilience in the face of overwhelming odds have ensured that they are remembered as one of the most powerful and fearsome tribes in American history. 4. Cheyenne. The Cheyenne, a powerful Great Plains tribe, were known for their resilience, warrior culture, and fearsome resistance to U.S. expansion. Originally from the Great Lakes region, the Cheyenne migrated westward, eventually settling in the plains of what is now Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota, and Nebraska. Along with their close allies, the Arapaho and the Lakota Sioux, the Cheyenne played a significant role in shaping the history of the Northern Plains, both in warfare and cultural exchange. The Cheyenne were well known for their warrior societies, such as the Dog Soldiers, a fierce military faction within the tribe that upheld their code of honor through bravery in battle and defense of their people. The Dog Soldiers became one of the most feared military groups on the plains, acting independently from other Cheyenne leadership at times and engaging in warfare with settlers and U.S. military forces. Their attacks were characterized by their mobility, coordination, and use of the landscape to ambush their enemies. One of the most tragic and significant events involving the Cheyenne was the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864. A peaceful group of Cheyenne and Arapaho, led by Chief Black Kettle, had been assured protection by U.S. forces but were attacked by a Colorado militia under Colonel John Chivington. The militia slaughtered between 150 to 200 Native people, including women, children, and the elderly. This event galvanized Cheyenne warriors and their allies into further resistance against U.S. encroachment. The Cheyenne played a major role in the Great Sioux War of 1876, fighting alongside the Lakota and Arapaho at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Under the leadership of war chiefs such as Two Moon and Wooden Leg, Cheyenne warriors contributed to the decisive victory over Custer's 7th Cavalry. The battle is one of the most famous Native American victories in history, showcasing the deadly efficiency of the Cheyenne and their allies in combat. Despite their military successes, the Cheyenne, like many other tribes, were eventually overwhelmed by the sheer numbers and resources of the U.S. government. By the late 1870s, many Cheyenne were forced onto reservations, and their traditional way of life was systematically eroded. However, some groups, such as the Northern Cheyenne, continued to resist, with notable leaders like Chief Dullknife and Little Wolf leading their people on a daring escape from the southern plains to their ancestral homelands in the north, an event now known as the Northern Cheyenne Exodus. The legacy of the Cheyenne as one of the deadliest and most resilient tribes in American history is undeniable. Their warrior culture, exemplified by the Dog Soldiers, and their pivotal role in some of the most famous battles against U.S. forces, cement their place as one of the most powerful tribes to resist European expansion on the plains. Their story is one of both tragic loss and remarkable courage, as they fought to preserve their culture and land in the face of overwhelming adversity. 5. Shawnee. The Shawnee tribe, originally from the Ohio Valley, were among the most formidable Native American groups during the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Known for their tenacity in battle and fierce resistance to European colonization, the Shawnee played a central role in the struggle for control of the Midwest. Their warriors were not only skilled in combat, but also adept at forming alliances with other tribes and European powers to push back against settlers encroaching on their lands. One of the most famous Shawnee leaders was Tecumseh, a charismatic and brilliant military strategist. Tecumseh envisioned a united Native American Confederacy, spanning from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, that could resist U.S. expansion. He traveled widely, seeking to unite various tribes under a common cause, emphasizing that the land belonged to all native peoples and could not be sold without the consent of all. His vision of unity was a direct threat to U.S. settlers and the government, who were determined to take native lands for westward expansion. Tecumseh's military leadership was unmatched. Alongside his brother, Tenskwatawa, known as the Shawnee Prophet, Tecumseh waged war against U.S. forces during Tecumseh's War and the War of 1812. His alliances with the British during the War of 1812 gave native forces a fighting chance against U.S. armies, and Shawnee warriors fought in several significant battles during the conflict, including the Battle of the Thames, where Tecumseh was killed in 1813. Even after Tecumseh's death, the Shawnee continued to resist U.S. expansion, participating in several other conflicts. Shawnee warriors were highly regarded for their skill in battle, and their ability to navigate the dense forests of the Ohio Valley made them a formidable enemy. They were adept at ambush tactics, using the natural landscape to their advantage and striking swiftly before retreating into the wilderness. The Shawnee were also instrumental in forming alliances with other native tribes, recognizing the importance of unity in the face of a common enemy. Tecumseh's efforts to bring together tribes such as the Potawatomi, Wyandot, and others created a powerful coalition that posed a serious threat to U.S. forces. However, despite their efforts, the Shawnee, like many other tribes, were eventually overwhelmed by U.S. military power and forced onto reservations. Yet, their legacy of resistance and their role in some of the most important Native American wars in history ensure that the Shawnee are remembered as one of the deadliest and most determined tribes in Native American history. 6. Navajo. The Navajo, or Dine, are one of the largest and most enduring Native American tribes, primarily inhabiting the southwestern United States, including areas of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. The Navajo were known not only for their cultural richness and artistry, but also for their deadly resistance to Spanish, Mexican, and later American forces. Their ability to adapt to their harsh desert environment, combined with their effective guerrilla warfare tactics, made them a formidable opponent for centuries. Historically, the Navajo clashed with Spanish settlers and soldiers during the 17th and 18th centuries, engaging in raids and defending their homelands against encroachment. Their ability to evade capture and retaliate with quick, strategic raids kept the Spanish and later Mexican forces at bay for many years. The Navajo adopted horses and livestock from the Spanish, integrating them into their way of life and enhancing their mobility and power on the battlefield. However, it was during the 19th century that the Navajo became embroiled in one of the most devastating periods of their history. The U.S. government sought to subjugate the Navajo through a series of military campaigns, culminating in the forced relocation known as the Long Walk in 1864. Under the leadership of Kit Carson, the U.S. Army employed a scorched earth policy, destroying Navajo crops, livestock, and homes to force their surrender. Thousands of Navajo men, women, and children were marched over 300 miles to Bosque Redondo, a barren reservation in eastern New Mexico. Despite these hardships, the Navajo displayed remarkable resilience. The Navajo people survived the harsh conditions at Bosque Redondo and were eventually allowed to return to their ancestral lands in 1868, thanks to their tenacity and negotiations with the U.S. government. Their ability to rebuild and thrive after such a traumatic experience is a testament to their strength and survival instincts. Navajo warriors were known for their deadly accuracy with bows and rifles, as well as their tactical knowledge of the rugged desert and canyon terrain. They used the land to their advantage, launching surprise attacks and quickly retreating into the remote corners of their territory, where pursuers struggled to follow. This made them highly effective in guerrilla warfare, frustrating both Spanish and American forces for years. In more modern times, Navajo warriors continued to contribute to American history. During World War II, the Navajo code talkers played a pivotal role in the Pacific Theater, using their native language to create an unbreakable code that was instrumental in U.S. military victories. The bravery and skill of these warriors are still celebrated today. The Navajo's legacy as one of the deadliest and most resilient Native American tribes is defined by their ability to defend their homeland, adapt to new challenges, and emerge stronger despite the adversities they faced. Their survival and continued cultural vitality stand as a testament to their enduring spirit. 7. Iroquois Confederacy, Haudenosaunee. The Iroquois Confederacy, also known as the Haudenosaunee or People of the Longhouse, was a powerful alliance of 6 Native American nations: the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and later, the Tuscarora. This confederation, centered in what is now upstate New York, was one of the most formidable military powers in North America during the 17th and 18th centuries. The Iroquois were feared not only for their prowess in warfare, but also for their complex political structure, which allowed them to maintain unity and dominate their rivals. The Iroquois were known for their brutal warfare tactics, which included ambushes, surprise raids, and large-scale campaigns against rival tribes and European settlers. Their influence stretched from the Great Lakes to the Ohio Valley, and their military campaigns against neighboring tribes like the Huron, Erie, and Susquehannock often resulted in the complete destruction or absorption of these groups into Iroquois society. Their use of firearms, acquired through trade with the Dutch and later the English, gave them a significant advantage over other tribes, making them a deadly force in the region. One of the most notable aspects of Iroquois warfare was their practice of mourning wars. These raids were conducted to capture prisoners who would be either adopted into the tribe to replace lost members or executed as a form of vengeance. This practice not only replenished their population but also instilled fear in their enemies, as Iroquois warriors were known for their fierce discipline and willingness to fight to the death. During the Beaver Wars of the 17th century, the Iroquois sought to expand their influence by controlling the fur trade with European powers. This series of conflicts pitted the Iroquois against other Native American tribes, as well as the French, and resulted in the Iroquois gaining control over vast territories in the Great Lakes region. Their dominance in the fur trade and their ability to play European powers against each other further solidified their status as a powerful and deadly force. The Iroquois Confederacy also played a significant role during the American Revolution. While the Confederacy was divided, with some tribes supporting the British and others the American colonists, Iroquois warriors were instrumental in several key battles. Their alliances and knowledge of the land made them valuable allies and formidable foes during the conflict. Despite their military power, the Iroquois faced significant challenges following the American Revolution. Many of their lands were ceded to the U.S. government, and their influence waned as settlers continued to encroach on their territory. However, the legacy of the Iroquois Confederacy as a deadly and influential force remains. Their sophisticated political system, military prowess, and ability to adapt to changing circumstances ensured their place as one of the most powerful and feared Native American groups in history. Seminole. The Seminole people, originally a confederation of various Native American groups and runaway African slaves, developed into one of the most resilient and militarily formidable tribes in the southeastern United States. Their fierce resistance to U.S. forces during the Seminole Wars, particularly under the leadership of figures like Osceola, earned them a place as one of the deadliest Native American tribes in history. The Seminole Wars, which took place in the early to mid-19th century, were some of the longest and costliest conflicts in U.S. history. The First Seminole War, 1816 to 1819, was a response to Seminole resistance to American incursions into Florida, then controlled by Spain. The Seminoles, with their knowledge of the swamps and forests of Florida, were able to launch devastating guerrilla attacks on U.S. forces, using their environment to their advantage. The Second Seminole War, 1835 to 1842, however, is where the Seminole earned their reputation for being among the deadliest tribes. This conflict was sparked by the U.S. government's efforts to remove the Seminoles from Florida and relocate them to the Indian Territory, modern-day Oklahoma. The Seminoles, led by warriors like Osceola, resisted fiercely, engaging in hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, and surprise attacks from their strongholds deep in the Florida swamps. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, they inflicted heavy casualties on U.S. forces. The Third Seminole War, 1855 to 1858, continued this pattern of resistance, with the Seminoles refusing to surrender despite relentless pressure from the U.S. government. By the end of the conflicts, a small group of Seminoles had managed to remain in Florida, never fully defeated, while others were forcibly relocated. The Seminoles' ability to use the natural landscape to their advantage, their guerrilla tactics, and their tenacity in the face of overwhelming odds made them one of the deadliest and most determined tribes in Native American history. Their resistance, particularly during the Seminole Wars, remains a testament to their resilience and unwillingness to bow to external forces.